What if I told you that some of the biggest scientific breakthroughs of the last decade weren't made by a genius in a lab coat? They were made by a machine, an AI that figured out things that would have taken us centuries to find on our own. Today, we're going through 8 of those discoveries, things AI invented, designed, or uncovered that honestly shouldn't have been possible yet. I went deep into the research on each of these, so everything you're about to hear is backed up by real science. Some of it still kinda blows my mind, so let's get into it. Number 1, AI designed living organisms, or Xenobots. Alright, I'm starting here because this is the one that broke my brain when I first read about it. In 2020, a team from the University of Vermont and Tufts University asked an AI to design a living organism. Not modify one, not tweak an existing species, design one from scratch. The AI used an evolutionary algorithm, same basic logic as Darwinian natural selection, and ran through thousands of possible designs in a virtual environment, looking for shapes that could actually do useful things like moving towards a target. Then scientists took the best designs and built them for real, using stem cells from frog embryos. What came out was something researchers called neither a traditional robot nor a known species of animal, a new class of living thing. These are less than a millimeter long, built from 500 to 1,000 cells, and they can move, push objects around, and even work together. They run on their own stored cellular energy for up to 10 days. And then in 2021, the same team dropped an even bigger bombshell. Xenobots can reproduce. They swim around, find loose cells floating in the dish, scoop them up, and assemble new Xenobots inside the Pac-Man-shaped structures on their surface. Those babies then go out and do the same things. This is a completely new form of biological self-replication, one that doesn't exist anywhere in nature, and an AI designed the organism that does it. I genuinely think Xenobots are one of the most underreported stories in modern science. The applications people are talking about, targeting drug delivery inside the body, tissue repair, cleaning up environmental toxins, those aren't distant ideas anymore. They are the next steps. Okay, this one is a bit older, but it's one of my favorites because it shows something really important about how AI thinks differently from us. NASA needed a new antenna for their Space Technology 5 mission, 3 small satellites studying Earth's magnetic field. The requirements were extremely specific, and at one point the mission parameters changed entirely, meaning that the antenna had to be redesigned fast. So they handed the problem to an evolutionary algorithm. The AI tested thousands of completely random antenna shapes. It kept the best ones, mixed them together, introduced small random mutations, and ran the whole process again and again. What it eventually produced looked, to every expect to those who saw it, like a crumpled piece of wire someone had sat on by accident. Antenna designers looked at it and they were basically baffled. It made no structural sense to human eye. In testing, however, it outperformed the hand-designed antenna that the official contractor had built. 3 copies of it launched into space on March 22, 2006, and they worked flawlessly for the entire mission. That was the first computer-evolved hardware ever to fly in space. And the redesign after the mission requirements changed, the AI handled it in under a month. A traditional design process would have taken around 5 months. The AI was faster, cheaper, and built something no human would have come up with, because it wasn't constrained by what antenna design is supposed to look like. Number 3, AI discovered superbug-killing antibiotic, or Halicin. This is probably the entry on the list with the highest potential to directly save lives, so pay attention to this one. Antibiotic resistance is a genuine global emergency. Drug-resistant bacteria are getting harder and harder to treat, and the pharmaceutical companies have mostly stepped back from developing new antibiotics because the business model just doesn't work well for them. You take antibiotics for a week, not for life, so there's not much profit in it. In 2019, MIT researchers decided to let AI take a crack at the problem. They built a deep learning model and ran it across a library of over 6,000 chemical compounds from the drug repurposing hub. Crucially, they told the AI to look for molecules that looked nothing like existing antibiotics, because bacteria that have evolved resistance to current drugs would still be vulnerable to something totally structurally different. The AI flagged a molecule called SU3327. This thing had been developed years earlier as a potential diabetes treatment. It failed, got shelved, and nobody thought about it again. The AI pulled it out of the database and said, "This could be one of the most potent antibiotics we've ever seen," and researchers tested it, and guess what? It was. They renamed it Halicin, a nod to HAL 9000 from 2001: A Space Odyssey, which personally I love. In the lab, it killed some of the most dangerous drug-resistant bacteria on the planet, including Acinetobacter baumannii and Mycobacterium tuberculosis. In mice, it cleared a life-threatening drug-resistant infection within 24 hours, and its mechanisms of action are genuinely novel. It disrupts the bacteria's ability to maintain its internal electrochemical balance, which is different from virtually everything we currently use. By 2023, the same team's upgraded model found an entirely new class of compounds that can kill MRSA, which kills over 10,000 Americans every year. This is what AI finding things humans never would have looked for looks like in practice. Number 4, AI-designed drug by Insilico medicine. Speaking of medicine, let me give you a timeline that I still find genuinely hard to process. Insilico Medicine is a biotech company that uses generative AI end-to-end for drug discovery, not as a helper tool, as the core of the whole operation. They took an idiopathic pulmonary fibrosis, a lung disease where the tissue progressively scars over. Patients typically only survive 2 to 5 years after diagnosis. There's not much available to treat it. Their AI platform, however, which is called Pharma.ai, first identified a protein called TNIK as a novel drug target for disease. Then a separate AI system called Chemistry 42 designed the actual molecular structure of a drug to inhibit it. The preclinical candidate was nominated in February 2021, just 18 months after the project started. 9 months after that, the first human volunteers were dosed in phase 1 trials. By 2023, the drug, now called Rentosartib, was in phase 2 trials in both the US and China. That made it the first drug ever fully discovered and designed by generative AI to reach phase 2. Phase 2A results came out in Nature Biotechnology in 2024, showing improved lung function in IPF patients and a solid safety profile. Here's the thing that really puts it into perspective though. Traditional drug discovery, from initial target identification to phase 1 trials, take on average 10 to 15 years and costs over $2 billion. Insilico got from 0 to phase 1 in under 30 months. The AI didn't just speed things up, it fundamentally changed what the timeline looked like. Number 5, AI designed battery materials. Batteries are the bottleneck for everything we want to do with clean energy. EVs, renewable grids, personal devices, and finding the right material has always been slow, painful trial and error. Now, researchers at the New Jersey Institute of Technology used generative AI to go after the problem, publishing their results in Cell Reports Physical Science in June 2025. The target was next-generation multivalent ion batteries, which use elements like magnesium or aluminum instead of lithium. Those elements carry ions with 2 or 3 positive changes instead of 1, which is more energy storage per battery. The catch is that those ions are physically larger and are harder to move through standard battery materials. You need big, open internal chambers. The team ran 2 AI models across 44,000 known crystal structures, generated 10,000 candidate materials, and screened them for stability and electronic properties. What came back were 5 completely novel, porous transition metal oxide structures. Things that didn't exist in any database before, which is exactly the open architecture those large ions needed, validated by quantum mechanical simulations. Meanwhile, Microsoft researchers in 2023 used a similar approach to screen 32 million possibilities in 80 hours and identify a promising new battery electrolyte. Different projects, same pattern. AI finding things in chemical space that no human team had the bandwidth to find. Number 6. AI-generated enzymes that break down plastic. There are over 7 billion tons of plastic waste in the world. Less than 10% of it has ever been recycled. The rest sits in landfills, floats in oceans, or breaks down into microplastics over hundreds of years. It is a massive problem, and the conventional chemistry has not come close to solving it. However, in 2022, researchers at the University of Texas at Austin used a machine learning model to take a crack at it. A naturally occurring enzyme called FAST-PETase has been discovered in 2016, a bacterial enzyme that can slowly break down PET plastic, the type used in bottles and food packaging. But slowly is the key word. It only worked efficiently at high temperatures, making it impractical for larger scale use. The team's AI model was trained on over 19,000 protein structures. It went through FAST-PETase's 290 amino acids one by one, checked whether each one was a structural fit for the environment compared to the thousands of proteins it had learned from, and flagged where a better alternative might exist. The result was a redesigned enzyme called FAST-PETase, and the name says exactly what it does. FAST-PETase broke down 51 different types of post-consumer PET plastic, food containers, water bottles, fabric, in as little as 24 hours and within a week across all 51 samples at temperatures below 50 degrees Celsius. Previous versions needed at least 65 degrees just to function, and after breaking the plastic down to its molecular building blocks, it can repolymerize those monomers back into brand new clear plastic. Complete circular recycling. The team filed a patent and is working on scaling it up for industrial use. If that happens, this becomes one of the most practically impactful AI inventions of the entire list. Number 7. AI-designed microscopic living robots built from human cells. So, remember Xenobots from the beginning of the video? Well, the story keeps going. In 2023, the same team extended those principles to adult human cells, specifically lung progenitor cells, and published the results in Advanced Science. They call the new organisms Anthrobots. And the thing that makes this qualitatively different from Xenobots is that adult human cells aren't supposed to do this. Embryonic frog cells are relatively malleable. Mature human tissue cells, they don't normally reorganize themselves into self-propelled structures, but under the right AI-guided conditions, they evidently did. The Anthrobots moved on their own, and then researchers noticed something that nobody had planned for. Clusters of them began spontaneously repairing scratched neuron tissue in a lab dish. They were healing damaged nerve cells without being told to. Now, please stop for a second, because I really need you to think about what that actually means. Microscopic robots built from patients' own cells with no genetic modification that can navigate biological environments and repair tissue, with basically zero risk of immune rejection because the material is the patient's own biology. That's not a speculative concept anymore. It's already happening in a dish. The next steps are figuring out how to guide and control it, and eventually whether it translates to living systems. But the foundation is there, and I find that genuinely extraordinary. And how about you? Be sure to let me know in the comment section down below. Anyway, it's time for number 8. AI discovered 2.2 million new crystal materials. And we're closing with the one that statistically might be the most staggering thing on the list. In November 2023, Google DeepMind published a paper in Nature detailing what their AI tool GNoME, graphic networks for material exploration, had found. 2.2 million new crystal structures. Of those, 380,000 are predicted to be stable, meaning that they could realistically be synthesized and used in actual technology. Now, to understand why that that matters, before GNoME, all of human scientific history had turned up to around 20,000 stable inorganic crystals. GNoME found 10 times the number in 17 days. Researchers at Lawrence Berkeley National Laboratory tested whether the predictions were real, and using AI-guided robot systems running 24/7, they attempted to synthesize 58 of the predicted compounds over 17 days. 41 of them worked, which is a success rate of 71%. Independently, scientists around the world had already confirmed 736 of GNoME's predicted structures through their own experiments. Amongst the findings, 52,000 potential new 2D materials similar to graphene, 25 times more candidate solid lithium-ion conductors than all previous researchers combined, and new candidates for superconductors, solar cells, and the next generation chips. DeepMind made 380,000 most stable predictions publicly available through Materials Project database. Every material scientist in the world now has access to a roadmap that didn't exist 2 years ago. So, what's my honest reaction to all of this? It isn't fear. It's excitement, because none of this is replacing scientists. What it does is giving them a way to search where they never could before, across millions of possibilities that no human team has the bandwidth to explore manually. That's the common thread through every single one of these breakthroughs. And what do you think? Are you concerned for the future, or do you share my own views? Be sure to let me know in the comment section down below, and while you're down there, be sure to subscribe to the channel, and if you liked what you saw, don't forget to hit that thumbs up button.